What's up, everyone? Welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Video Game Fight School channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. So one of the things I wanted to talk about today was PlayStation's hidden strategy that we just recently discovered, that they wanted to sell Marvel Spider-Man 3 in 3 different parts. Now, I think this is not new for them. I think this particular game or scheme has already been run by them in the past. The only difference is we're actually just discovering that this is the game that they ran on us a while back. So let me go ahead and explain exactly what it is that I mean. Now, when we talk about this particular thing in regard to these games, one big challenge that nobody really poses out there is the length of the games since the Spider-Man 2018 game has been greatly reduced and shortened. This is what leads me to believe that this particular issue with the Spider-Man titles after the 2018 game is something that's been done in this case. So let's go ahead and look at the facts that we have available. And I think this is why a lot of people are making their way to PC, because you're going to pay significantly less. You're going to get the better version of the game because your hardware on PC can be upgraded to give you the very best of what it is that you want. And you will still, for many cases, be able to get better value for your money because you're not paying money to play online or get cloud saves. So Marvel Spider-Man 1 in 2018 came out, right? That was one version of the game. Then they released Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales, which is a very short game. In my opinion, if you complete, say, the Spider-Man game and you look at what the Spider-Man, Miles Morales game was, I don't think you could have priced that game at the price point that it came out, somewhere around $49.99. That was a premium price for that game. And I remember talking with folk on the PlayStation ecosystem, and many of them would admit that Miles Morales was basically a glorified DLC, especially when you compare it to the follow-up game from the Arkham series, which is providing you kind of a continuation of a storytelling beat. So I think Miles Morales should have been a full-fledged game to be able to flesh out exactly what Miles was about, give him his own time of the day, give him his own story, but instead it was basically a prologue of who Miles Morales is in terms of AAA, game length. That's what we can actually objectively call it. Because I've seen many PlayStation folk even say this to me, and you can't necessarily say, okay, for $49.99, you're paying for a 6-hour story. That just doesn't make any sense. In fact, I think if it was actually maybe even the price or the length of Spider-Man 2, that would have actually been much more, in my opinion anyways, significant. However, we got a really short game for a premium price. And then following that, they released the remastered version of Marvel Spider-Man, from the 2018. Basically, that upgrading the game from the 30 to the 60 FPS that, probably would have been difficult to do with just maybe unlocking the frame rates. But they could have easily just given you the upgrade. However, they resold it as a different product. Now, this is the version that exists on PC, and that version came out at a premium as well. Many of you remember this. So basically, they've taken the exact same game, Marvel Spider-Man of 2018, and sold it in 2 parts, a remastered and a base version. Then they took what I called a prologue to a character, about 6 or 8 hours, depending on how you play, 10 hours. I don't know how long it took you to beat Miles Morales, but they took that and they sold it for a premium price. Then they took a very shortened version of Spider-Man 2, which I think they could have been able to tie up a lot of story beats, and they sold that at a full, newly updated pricing of about $70. This is something that I think PlayStation has already been doing. The only reason many are just waking up to the realization is that they actually got to see it in leaked documents. It's no secret. So I think now the cat is out of the bag, and this company, for their money-grabbing ways, have been exposed. In fact, what's worse, ladies and gentlemen, in my opinion, with Sony's exclusivity, and especially the way they do things, that I think is eventually going to harm them if they don't move to a more consumer-friendly standpoint, is the way they also do this with the Final Fantasy games. Right now, Final Fantasy VII is on the horizon to release a 3rd version in its remake category. If I'm very correct with what I'm saying, I know there was one Final Fantasy remake game that came out. Then there was like another one called Integrate or something. I don't even know what that was about. But there's another one coming out in 2024. So Square Enix is actually following this pattern. And basically, I think this is one way that they're, pretty much just farming dollars from a lot of people. This is not to say that Square Enix has not done this in the past. This has been done with other games. And maybe Sony learned it from Square Enix. But let us not be surprised that this is the direction that they want to start going. Now, I get it. The cost of producing these games for them is really, really high. But again, it goes to show that their entire core strategy is now having to show its kinks, which is just a matter of just time. That's basically the biggest challenge with PlayStation's business model. It takes a while to make these games. Yes, they're expensive. Yes, they can sell well, but the time to recoup their profits and the time for the games to actually come out in a consistent manner to be able to actually satisfy fans is where the biggest challenge is. So at the end of the day, it appears that what their analysts are saying within PlayStation, that their core pillars are outdated, is actually much more truer than we actually imagine. Because you continue to ponder this stuff and you realize that, wow, this company has not necessarily set itself up for success. Rather, it's been giving the vibes of itself being some kind of a premium company where it really isn't. If you think about it, like Arkham Knight from years ago is a game that was achieved with technology that is considered less powerful than what we have today. I disagree heavily. I think the technologies are basically built on each other. And yes, there are improvements, but when it comes to a feasibility standpoint, I think you can basically say that, the technologies for the most part are based on the skill and the talent of whomever is using them and whomever is building them. That's basically what it is, because these technologies, most of the time, they're customized to execute the task at hand. So as I continually say to those who may be considering the next generation of consoles, you might be able to find better benefit moving to PC. I understand that you think that the console ecosystem, or that you think that having a console is easier than having a PC. That's not necessarily the fact. The learning curve is basically an anthill compared to you as somebody who's able to operate a console. If you can operate a console and you can operate a phone, you can definitely put together a gaming PC and be able to manage it. It's basically that simple. I know people will sit here and say, oh, you have to do driver updates and you have to do this. Bro, you click a button to do. In fact, it's actually easier to do your NVIDIA and AMD updates than it is to do your iPhone updates. I mean, am I right? I mean, somebody tell me. It's basically the exact same process. So if I see that complaint one more time, I might just go ahead and just, I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do. I just feel like sometimes, people want to say things that are, convenient, but then they become dishonest because they don't really realize what they're saying. It's that simple to be able to run updates, and I don't understand why anybody would think that's actually a big deal. That's a healthy thing. It gives your hardware better, use for the software, which is the game that you're about to play, so that you can get the very best performance. And so I don't want to hear it. You have what it takes to be able to make the best choice as the consumer. I strongly believe you need a neutral platform if all of this is bothering you. If this doesn't bother you, you want to play, you want to pay for Spider-Man 3 times, then, that's your prerogative. But again, at the end of the day, who knows? Maybe Spider-Man 3 might even make its way to PC day one in 3 parts and possibly do well in sales. But hey, you never know. Talk to me in the comment section. Let me hear your thoughts. I appreciate you guys' time and audience, and hopefully we'll talk pretty soon in another one. Peace out.